Welcome to the South Ops Fire Weather Webcast for Tuesday, June 24th. I'm your host, Kristen Stewart. As a weak Pacific trough lingers overhead, the marine layer has deepened considerably this morning. Low cloud coverage is much more expansive than it was yesterday, with all the coastal plains and valleys currently blanketed. Many of the lower coastal slopes are also covered in clouds as well. The valleys and inland coastal plains should clear nicely in the next couple hours, but clearing will be quite sluggish closer to the coastline, and some beaches may be socked in the clouds all day. The marine layer will likely be the deepest of the week today, and we'll start to see it become shallower as the week goes on. As the Pacific trough overhead weakens a little more, high temperatures today will rise around 2 to 5 degrees over yesterday, mainly away from the coastline. Afternoon highs will remain a few degrees below seasonal normals, with 70s to lower 80s for the coastal areas away from the beaches and 90s for most of the interior valleys and high desert. The trough overhead is also continuing to generate instability over central California, though much less so than yesterday as it weakens and begins to push east. As a result, isolated shower and thunderstorm activity is possible across the Sierra this afternoon and evening, with the potential for locally heavy rainfall. A few lightning starts are possible over the Sierra today, especially if there is a lack of rainfall to accompany any strikes, though any significant fire growth in the short term is unlikely. The weather pattern is going to be highly uneventful through the rest of this week and into early next week, with no significant impacts expected. The weak Pacific trough lingering overhead today will further weaken and shift eastward on Wednesday. Weak high pressure will then build into California for the rest of the week, promoting a gradual warming trend and keeping dry weather in place. Unlike what we saw the other week, no extreme heat or excessive dryness is expected within this weather pattern, and this will likely continue into early July. Forecast projections indicate that high pressure will weaken a bit early next week, and a weak trough may move overhead, which may bring a renewed threat for thunderstorm activity for the Sierra, though confidence remains low for now. Temperatures will gradually warm through the rest of the week and this weekend, with highs steadily increasing around 1 to 3 degrees each day on average. Though the greatest warming is expected on Wednesday, with around 3 to 6 degrees of warming. By the end of the week, high temperatures will rise back up to a few degrees above seasonal normals. Valley highs will rise back into the 90s to around 100 by the end of this week, and the low desert will likely exceed 110 by the weekend. A persistent marine layer will become more shallow as the week progresses, but it will continue to keep the coastal areas cooler in the 60s and 70s. The overall trend in humidity through the period is expected to remain persistent. Minimum humidity will be mainly 12 to 25% above and inland from the marine layer influence each day, with single digits in the deserts. The marine layer is expected to become shallower as the week goes on, so the area of higher humidities will likely become limited to the immediate coastline and a few miles inland as the week progresses. Overnight recoveries will be mostly fair to good outside of the deserts each night. For most areas, winds will be primarily diurnal and terrain-driven each day. For the deserts and adjacent slopes, as well as portions of the central coast, typical afternoon and evening westerly breeziness will continue with gusts of 20 to 40 miles an hour common over these areas, with occasional higher gusts in localized spots. Nothing out of the ordinary is expected this week, but the warm and dry weather over the interior, combined with localized breeziness, will lead to a continuation of elevated fire weather conditions over some interior areas. Dead fuel moistures should be mostly steady for the next couple days, then should slowly dry away from the marine influence through the weekend. Dead fuel moistures are mostly near to below normal, but overall we are in much better shape than we were for most of last week. Live fuel moistures will continue to slowly decrease. They generally remain near normal for this time of year, but at least in the lower to mid elevations are gradually becoming more receptive to carrying fire, following the typical seasonal cycle. Large fire potential will be fairly low the next few days due to the relatively cool temperatures. Potential will gradually increase through the weekend as temperatures slowly rise, but a lack of significant winds or critically low humidity will still limit concerns overall. It is likely that any large fire potential will be primarily confined to grassy fuel types on any wind and terrain aligned starts during the critical burn window. But we have started to see a few cases where brush fuels have become contributors to fire activity, and despite the lack of significant fire weather this week, the gradually lowering live fuel moistures will continue to make such occurrences more prevalent in the weeks ahead. Expect light to moderate initial attack activity to continue across the region this week. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for tuning in. Our next webcast will be on Wednesday, June 25th. Have a fantastic day.